Are you ready? Welcome to Conflict Nexus Report, where we bring latest updates about global world crises and latest news. Hang tight for what we have for you today. On January 15th, 2026, Israeli forces launched a massive overnight operation across the occupied West Bank, arresting more than 80 Palestinians, wounding at least one man, and demolishing homes in what rights groups are calling an unprecedented escalation. This was not an isolated incident. It is part of a dramatic surge in Israeli military activity across the West Bank that has intensified sharply since the Gaza war began in October 2023. But the January 15th raids reveal something deeper, a systematic campaign that human rights organizations say amounts to collective punishment and is pushing the region closer to permanent annexation. Today, we break down what happened during these raids, the broader context of Israeli operations across the West Bank, and what it all means for the future of this conflict. In the early morning hours of January 15th, Israeli forces fanned out across the occupied West Bank in coordinated raids targeting multiple cities and refugee camps at the same time. According to the Palestinian Prisoners Society, at least 80 people were detained during overnight and dawn raids. Those arrested included a woman, 2 children, and multiple former prisoners who had previously been released. The raids focused heavily on Hebron and surrounding areas in the southern West Bank. In Dura, south of Hebron, Israeli forces surrounded a home and shot and wounded a man, the brother of Mahmoud al-Fasfas. The al-Fasfas family has been repeatedly targeted by Israeli forces, with their home subjected to frequent raids and assaults. In another incident in Hebron's Kalat Nafisa area, Israeli forces demolished the home of Imran al-Atra using a bulldozer. Al-Atra had been killed in November after being accused of carrying out an attack that killed one Israeli settler. The Israeli military later posted photos of the demolition on social media, describing the house as belonging to a terrorist. Human rights groups have long condemned home demolitions as a form of collective punishment that violates international law. Hebron was not the only target. Israeli forces also raided the Arub refugee camp north of Hebron, the town of Khobar near Ramallah, and multiple neighborhoods across nearly every major Palestinian city. In Khobar, residents reported that soldiers shouted insults and taunts, attempting to provoke confrontations. In the Al-Majaz community of Masafer Yatta, Israeli forces converted a Palestinian home into a temporary military outpost, forcing the family to spend the night outside in freezing temperatures. The Palestinian Prisoners Society described the operation as an unprecedented escalation and said field interrogations, where Palestinians are detained and questioned on the spot, have become a central policy of the occupation. To understand these raids, we need to look at the broader picture. Throughout 2025, Israeli forces carried out nearly 7,500 raids across Palestinian towns and villages, a 37% increase from the previous year. These operations often involve mass arrests, home searches, movement restrictions, and hours-long lockdowns. The human toll has been devastating. In 2025, Israeli forces and settlers killed 240 Palestinians in the West Bank. Nearly 1/4 of those killed were children. During the same period, Palestinians killed 17 Israelis, including 6 members of Israeli security forces. Since October 7, 2023, roughly 21,000 Palestinians have been arrested in the West Bank, including more than 1,600 children and 600 women. More than 9,000 Palestinians are currently held in Israeli prisons. Over 3,000 are administrative detainees, held without charge or trial, sometimes for years. Human rights organizations documented the deaths of 32 Palestinian prisoners in Israeli custody during 2025 alone, many attributed to torture or medical neglect. Meanwhile, Israeli settlers carried out hundreds of attacks on Palestinian communities, often with little or no accountability. Many settlers are now armed and integrated into security operations, blurring the line between civilians and military forces. Alongside the raids, settlement expansion has accelerated at record speed. In 2025, Israel approved over 28,000 new settler housing units, the highest number ever recorded in a single year. By the end of the year, Israel formally approved 19 new settlements, including ones dismantled 2 decades earlier. Today, up to 750,000 Israeli settlers live across the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem. All of these settlements are illegal under international law. In October 2025, Israel's parliament advanced a bill that would formally annex the West Bank. The vote narrowly passed its first stage, driven largely by far-right coalition members. Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich openly stated that settlement expansion is meant to prevent the creation of a Palestinian state. In August, Israel approved the E1 settlement plan, a project that would cut the West Bank in two and isolate East Jerusalem from surrounding Palestinian areas. The International Court of Justice ruled in 2024 that Israel's occupation and settlement policies are illegal and amount to de facto annexation. The court stated that transferring civilians into occupied territory constitutes a war crime. Yet international law is only as strong as its enforcement. The United States, Israel's closest ally, has historically shielded Israel from consequences. Sanctions placed on violent settlers were reversed after President Trump returned to office in 2025. While Washington has warned against formal annexation, settlement expansion continues largely unchecked. Behind the statistics are real people. Palestinians live with the constant fear of night raids, arrests without explanation, and homes demolished without warning. Checkpoints can turn short trips into hours-long ordeals. Farmers are blocked from their land. Children grow up surrounded by soldiers, walls, and watchtowers. At the same time, Israeli settlers living nearby enjoy full civil rights, free movement, and military protection, creating what rights groups describe as a two-tier legal system. If current trends continue, the West Bank is moving toward permanent annexation without a formal declaration. The two-state solution is being dismantled settlement by settlement. Some analysts now warn that a one-state reality is emerging, one where Palestinians live without political rights under permanent military rule. This is why human rights organizations increasingly use the word apartheid. Diplomatic efforts remain limited. Global focus remains on Gaza, while violence in the West Bank escalates with far less attention. As 2026 unfolds, the raids continue, the arrests continue, and settlement expansion accelerates. The question is no longer just what happens next in the West Bank, but whether international law will be enforced at all, or whether it will remain powerless in the face of politics and power. For now, the cycle continues. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and turn on the subscribe button to be notified whenever we drop latest news.